Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, the bicycle industry podcast that brings retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders to the mic for honest discussions about the latest issues facing retailers while taking an in-depth look at the person within the profession.
Shane, welcome to the podcast. Happy New Year. How are you?
So far, so good. What are we, 2-3 days in now? And everything is looking much brighter.
I love this time of year because it's like a look back on last year, set some new goals, and just, the sun is shining and it's good. Listeners, we're recording January 4th, so we're rolling into this year together. Shane, I'm kind of like, I'm feeling a little bit like awestruck on this conversation. I always spend some time getting to know our guests beforehand. And as I was doing that, I was on your LinkedIn page and, I'm a huge fan of DeFeet Socks. Let me just start gushing. That's why I'm awestruck. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. But your LinkedIn, it just summarizes every experience I've had with you. You just seem so easygoing, but super focused, but ready to make a difference, ready to make an impact, ready to work in unison. And on LinkedIn, it says, part of your profile is you're lucky to make a living doing what you love. That's awesome, right? Tell us more. The time of year where everyone's making resolutions, like what?
Yeah, I wake up every day and I just enjoy, the fact that I'm in the bicycle industry, and how I got to get a job in the bicycle industry was, a piece of work itself. But, if you love what you do, you just get up every day and try and make an impact. So I'm blessed, absolutely blessed to be in the bicycle industry.
It is a nice feeling to get up every day loving what you do. It's almost, it's still work, but it's almost not work because it's like, let's get after it today and let's make a difference. Founder, president, and chief sockologist at DeFeet. How did that, tell us a little bit of your past. How did you tell us it? Give us more.
Well, it's kind of funny because it was very untypical. There wasn't a business plan of how to get into the bicycle industry. But prior to the bicycle industry, believe it or not, I was a traveling musician, and I was in a cover rock band in the 1980s. And the music that we played was REM, U2, The Clash, and we traveled the East Coast. I'm the bass player in the band, and usually what happens is the bass player kind of ends up being somewhat of a big brother or a manager, but the band set me up for understanding marketing, because a band has to have a market. You have to understand what songs you need to play. And leadership skills kind of came from that in my early 20s. And my family business, my father emigrated from England in the sock business. He sold knitting machines and parts for knitting machines. And while I was in the band, I also studied electronics engineering. And what was happening at the time in the early 90s, machines were going from mechanical to electronic. So I had this knowledge that I had learned in college, but I'd had this family history of sock machines. And then I had this marketing idea in cycling, the place that I loved. And I had the marketing in the trenches with the band. But then the silver bullet was I met a woman who understood finance. And I actually ended up finding a way to get her to marry me. And that kind of created the brand. So that's where I came from.
I've got goosebumps. It's interesting how our stories just kind of evolve, and it's our experiences, it's the people we meet along the way, it's the energy we bring to everything. And even just us having this podcast. I've been a huge fan of DeFeet since, I don't know, DeFeet and I had a relationship back when I was racing pro. I had your logo on my jersey and I wore your socks. I am thrilled to see the journey that the sock brand has had over time. And I really want to get into the conversation of helping retailers sell more socks, getting more riders, into our sport and all that good stuff. What's a day like for you? So are you riding? Do you ride? Are you in the office every day? What's a typical day like for you?
I come to the office every day, and we actually have two offices now, which we'll get into in a little while later, I'm sure. But I do go to the manufacturing facility, and then I come to the sales and marketing office. And my favorite job is testing products. And I actually test them myself here in the foothills of North Carolina, which has great humidity, great temperature range to test product. And that was probably my most fun part of my job. And the secret to being able to do that, and probably, is hiring really smart people that are much smarter at their job than I am. And it affords me the ability to go and do a 3-hour gravel ride on a Thursday with my wife and test products. So testing product and staying innovative and on the cusp is, I'm trying to be 5 years ahead of where we will be. And so technology innovation, whether it's the fibers and spider silks, or sustainable products, or even the crypto side of things, I try and stay 5 years ahead if I can. So that's my day.
I love North Carolina. It sounds like being testing out the product is super important. And yeah, there's so much I think about when it comes to socks. I mean, so many of us just wake up in the morning, right, and reach into our drawer and pull out a sock, not even taking, a lot of thought into like the processes, the materials, the selection. So we'll dive into that a little bit, but let's get more into DeFeet. So for our listeners, it's defeat.com. I'd head over to the website and check it out when you have a chance. So when specifically was DeFeet founded?
1992 was our first year of business.
And like, what was behind it? Were you out on a bike ride and you were wearing a pair of socks and you were like, these suck? Or like, tell me more. Tell us more.
Well, I think the inspiration probably came from the Tour de Pont. My wife and I got married in May, and we went to our honeymoon, and she's a cyclist as well. And so on our honeymoon, we watched the Tour de Pont in Virginia, and we saw Greg LeMond pull on the yellow jersey. But what people didn't think about maybe is DuPont. They make Coolmax, Lycra, Enron, Kevlar, which are all products that are used in the bicycle industry. And so they came out with this Coolmax, which was a space age material. And I realized that even though it was wicking moisture and doing all these incredible things, it was being put into a sock that was made for cotton. So what we did is we reversed engineered the sock and made the sock inside out, and that gave us a secret sauce, if you will. So we layered the wicking material on the inside and the nylon to the outside of the sock. And that was all in 1992. So the inspiration came from this bicycle race, but I got to meet the people at DuPont. And the next thing I knew, all those things that we talked about earlier, that the electronics, the cycling mad musical marketing, traveling Wilbury, if you will. And then I meet my wife, and everything just kind of comes together. So we utilized the new materials and integrated it into knitting technology that was emerging at the time.
I wonder how many different prototypes of socks did you have until you found the secret sauce, right?
Well, I do have the very first one that I pulled off the machine still. And it's funny because that was on the mechanical type of machinery that was kind of like a hybrid where the electronics were just starting to come in. It's really, really ugly. I'll have to show it to you at some point. But then, the impetus for me starting the company was my wife was quite a good bike racer, and she could supplement her income in the summertime with bike racing back in early 90s. And I was spending money racing bikes. So I started making socks for the local team. I was the team captain, and we were sponsored by Cannondale. Next thing I knew, we had made socks for Cannondale, and off we go. So.
Yeah, and the custom program I know is pretty in depth, and we'll get into that. But so off you go, and so now we have DeFeet Socks. So a little bit more about where you're headquartered. I know you sell globally, and what's that look like? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we chose the foothills of North Carolina, right at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's a town called Hildebrand. And that's where my father had a company, and I actually bought that from his estate when he passed. And that is where we have a 50,000 square foot facility where we own our own equipment and buy local yarn. And just recently, a year ago, we actually moved into a 10,000 square foot sales and marketing clubhouse, which is also a boutique and an outlet. And so our space is really grown since the early days. But North Carolina has been a great place to have a business, and our hometown of Hickory has really made some big changes. And the reason we moved to this clubhouse is it's on a bike path, a bike walking path. So we can go out the door and, hit the trails. It's awesome.
Oh my God. So I love that area. I was just down there recently mountain biking, and it's nice to have a headquarters like East Coast. That's awesome. Yes. So we know the socks, you've been in the market for some years now, many teams, many riders. I know you work with many events, the custom program, many retailers are already working with DeFeet Socks. What do you think has led to that success? So, there's a lot of sock brands on the market. What makes DeFeet different?
Well, I think we had an early advantage because we were the only cycling sock in that were just a cycling sock. That's all we made. And our mission is to make your ride more comfortable. And so we focus on the rider experience, and that's our primary mission, if you will. But we control our own manufacturing process, and that leads to quality because we pick the ingredients that go into the product. And so we're not only sustainable, but we buy local yarns that we know the quality of the yarn. And, it's probably a reason like these small brands that have come out over the last 7 years or so, which are boutique brands like Rich Supply, The Athletic, or Not, Handlebar Mustache, 10-Speed Hero. They chose DeFeet because of our quality. And so that is probably our advantage is our high quality. We are a micro sockery, and I am a self-proclaimed chief sockologist. And so not many companies will say that, that they probably spill more in a year than we make. And so we can pay attention to the quality. We can also turn on a dime because we're small. If we have a problem, I can go to that knitting machine. Remember, I studied knitting machine technology and electronics. I can actually be hands-on. And so because of all those reasons, we get a lot of technology comes our way in the yarn end of things, because North Carolina State University has an incredible textile program, and so does Clemson University. And so they like to try it with our astronauts or our Tour de France riders, if you will, to find out if it actually works. And we also have a local test facility, Materials Solutions, down in Newton, North Carolina, that can do all our testing as third party. And that's a really nice advantage. So we are serious about socks and the fiber, but we're also applying it with the input from the UCI teams that we sponsor.
Yeah. And I can attest to the quality, and I hate to be so vulnerable on air, but I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Woolly Bullies and the DuraGlove. And I mean, I know we're talking about socks, but there's also, you make gloves, you make base layers, shoe covers, jersey, like it's amazing. But the Woolly Bullies I mean, we're talking multiple years. I have base layers and DuraGloves that have been around for multiple years. I mean, just very high quality and a lot of attention to detail. So do know for our listeners, there's more than socks here, and DeFeet's really, I think, unique in the way that it's super high quality with a great attention to detail. So thank you for the work that you've done for the industry for so long. I mean, how is the sock market? Like, how is the market right now? The cycling industry, we've been through a lot with COVID, post-COVID, navigating just the changes. I mean, how's it going, the landscape right now for you?
Well, this has been our worst year in 30 years, Heather. It was very difficult this year. And if you know our history, our worst year prior to this was 2001 when we burned down. But the COVID effect, the inventory problems that have affected the bicycle industry, the changing, distribution models, it's been very difficult. And this was my hardest year yet. But when we started this conversation, we're talking about the new year, and I am very excited for the new year. We made a lot of difficult changes this year, and I feel confident that we're going to be able to provide some better solutions for the distribution challenges that are out there. You know, we are omni-channel. We believe in that, and we hope that all the IBDs are finding every way they can to market products. But you know, we try and control the full map and MSRP, making sure that we hold everybody accountable, let's say, even ourselves. And I think that's important while this madness is going on. Our website where we sell direct, you know, we have over 700 SKUs. And as you mentioned earlier, it's not just socks, it's underwear. We feel that anything that touches the skin is something that we can improve on. And so a lot of bike shops just won't give us that space. And so we have to have our other products that sell direct on our website. We do have new order for the B2B customers. And our main focus in 2024 is to continue to onboard IBDs onto our new order platform. And as far as the distribution model, you know, HLC, Holly Lambert Company, and BTI that's where our products are distributed. Unfortunately, we were one of the 100 brands that QBP let go for 2024. And so that was one of those devastating things that hit us. But you know, we have a lot of excitement looking into this year.
Yeah, I mean, we have a changing consumer, right? That we're working with, consumers who want it when they want it, how they want it, and it's challenging to think about how we meet and service all consumers. I think retailers who dedicate a portion of their store to a sock selection that can really, you know, help a rider find a more enjoyable ride, that there's a lot of strength there, especially retailers who are doing custom socks. So there's a lot of value being very deliberate with your sock retailing. And I have a bunch of questions I want to ask you about that. As you look to working with retailers in 2024, I see on your website you have a whole bunch of events you're going to be at, and that'll help retailers with sell-through and marketing the brand. But do you have sales representatives that work directly with retailers, or how do retailers, if someone's listening and wants to connect with DeFeet to possibly become a reseller, how does that work?
Well, Heather, we had, I think, 27 sales reps in the field that were independent reps. And that's part of the change over the course of the years. DeFeet, being a sock, would be the last thing out of the bag. You know, they'd be selling helmets and pumps and bars and blah, blah, blah. And DeFeet's last out. And so we pulled all sales in-house, and we finally finished that this year. And we have a small team, very small team in here. My son is actually, he's 25. He came to help out. We have Rob Dickerson and Ethan. So we have a sales team of 3 people, including myself would be 4. So using the new order platform, it makes it easier for the IBD to get on. And some of the things we want to learn this year would be, how does the IBD, the MBDA IBD want to be contacted? How can we reach out to them? What is the best method? You know, now that QBP's gone, how much business does that take from us? And will they work with Holly Lambert, or would they rather, or BTI, or would they rather work with us directly? And we're open to any model that will help. But our small inside sales team are knowledgeable, and that's all we talk about. And we're all cyclists and love the sport. So.
There's something really comforting when you know you're calling a company that you're gonna get the answer that you need when you call, and the person is there dedicated to help you. So I applaud you for the change, and I hope that our listeners, our retailers, reach out and support you in the efforts. And you know, I love that you're asking for feedback and, you know, how you can be most impactful in your working ways forward. And thinking of that, I always think that the custom sock option, that the custom program is something that is of great value to retailers to really showcase their brand. And that's something that is available to retailers. Anyone can call you and work with DeFeet to create a custom line.
Yeah, we have all kinds of options for the custom line. Actually, we announced about a year and a half ago a one-off option where you can get one sock made, one custom sock. For $30, you can put anything you want on the sock, and it's direct to garment printing. And so that is new technology that we have that is really unique. And then we have our our Knit My Sock project, where you can do a 3 dozen order, and that's basically taking your colors and putting them on our patterns. So you really can't put your logo on that one. But then we have the full custom option as well, where you can do your branding on our sock, and you can take it all the way up. And if you order enough, you can do a full white label program. So we kind of offer everything in our custom department, and it's all made right here. We guide you through the process. And we're a small company. That micro sockery that I mentioned a while ago, we're 30 employees here, and we service, was it 37 countries, something like that.
It's amazing what can be done with a small, dedicated, focused team. So you sound like I want to come work for you guys. You sound fun. I'm coming down. We're going to go riding and I'll stop in.
Yeah, let's do. We've got some great travel. Come down, mountain biking, gravel, road. We do it all.
Yeah, I think we need to, yeah, we're gonna go test some socks. We'll go for a ride, all business. That'll be fun. All right, so I have, if you don't mind, since I have you, I want to ask you, I mean, you're the expert, you're working with retailers, you've been in the sock business for some time. If you don't mind, can I ask you some specific questions to help retailers navigate the challenging world of socks?
Sure.
All right, so just a visualization. I was a retailer for years, and at times I thought I did my sock display well. It was positioned next to my shoes, but I often would end up, it would start off looking great when I would place the initial order and very organized. And then it would be like 3 of one sock, 1 of the other sock, an extra large, a small, a total mismatch, and it wouldn't speak to anyone. And so I want to ask some questions that'll help retailers best position their sock sales. So first off, any strategies that you would suggest to create visually appealing sock displays that encourage that impulse or encourage that purchase?
Well, I like your idea, Heather. It's depending on space, of course. The larger shops that have a shoe section, I think having the socks there at the shoe sections is really good. But if you have try-ons within the shoe area, I'll tell you, Fleet Feet, I don't know if you follow Fleet Feet, they're a running store. I think they're up to 300 franchises, but they did an incredible job when they started selling 2 pair of socks for every shoe sold. And the way they did that is they would let you try a bunch of shoes on, and they would open a fresh pair of socks, and you had to put a fresh pair of socks on to put their shoes on. And the customer would go ahead and buy 2 pair of socks and a shoe. It was, it was an incredible way to make an impact. And, it was a good thing for the customer because it was a true running sock. And the same thing goes for cycling. If you can get to that space, if you're a large store and you've got enough people, then having that connection to a sock and a shoe, not all stores have that. So a small shop would benefit from having, a small display, like you said, near the checkout. And keeping that display small is key because it will look full. And, we do believe that size matters. And so we have 4 different sizes available. And some retailers don't like that because it's more SKUs. But the value of a sock is enhanced by its fit because it will wear out much slower if it fits, and it will be more comfortable. So that's why we go for the 4 size fit, but we do offer a 2 size fit for the shops that wanted to do a custom sock display at the register. I do think having fun designs really stands out. We had a really popular sock one year, the Honey Badger, which was kind of a mean, fun thing on the internet. And if you can chime into some of those type of trends, it's really cool. Or if you pick the Knit My Sock that I mentioned earlier, where you take one of our designs and do a one-off color run that matches your area for whatever reason. It might be the college or the high school, or but custom always helps out, especially at the selling area. Imagine if you're in Texas and you have a Texas flag at the cashier, and Texans love their flag, and so do other people that come to visit. And so those are some of the things that I would suggest. Doing a custom sock is key, and using those as test ride incentives. And when I started DeFeet, I gave a guy at a bike race a pair of socks with my phone number on the bottom and my fax number. That's how long ago it was. But he ended up calling me, and he was Greg LeMond's teammate. His name was Paul Willerton, and he's still to this day a part of DeFeet. He's my business partner. So a sock as a business card is a really good thing.
I love that. There's some great tips in there. And I want to go back to, we were talking about in the beginning, positioning the socks next to where you have your cycling shoe try on. And I used to actually take off, like you're suggesting, take a sock that we sell, and that was our try on sock. And like you suggested with DeFeet. And now people who are trying on cycling shoes, they try on the socks, and we get the staff super motivated to talk about the benefits of the sock they're putting on. I'm thinking so often of cotton socks, and when people try on cycling shoes with cotton socks, they're not even really getting the best fit because the thickness of the sock, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, but that is going to throw off the fit. So we actually want them to try a cycling shoe on with a performance sock. Am I correct?
Yes, you are. And as we know, cycling shoes are made almost like ski boots. And, if you're not a cyclist, you don't understand that. And road shoes fit different than mountain bike shoes. And so if somebody is a mountain biker, the Woolly Bully or the Cush has a little bit of padding, a slight bit of padding. It's not too thick, not too thin. And so that really works well. But having that as a try-on sock is a great idea. And maybe what we can learn from this, maybe the MBDA members, we could have a try-on bag for them to where they wouldn't have to break a pair apart. Or maybe we could do a training class with their staff, and let's do a Woolly Bully week. And so everybody's got a pair of Woolly Bullies, and then we train them about what the Bully fits and what shoe connections are about. Because our thinnest sock is our Evo, which is what they're wearing in the Tour de France now. And that sock is even thinner than our aerator. So, some really important things there.
Yeah, and the aerator is a pretty awesome sock for a performance cyclist. So, yeah, coming back to that, making sure our staff, it's so often as owners or buyers, we're buying stuff for the floor, but maybe not taking a moment to explain to our staff, this sock does this sock does this. So it's really important that our staff understands. So you mentioned 4 sock sizes, which seem like a lot to me, but then, you're talking about the importance of a perfect fit. Anything you would offer here to retailers, maybe to help inform their staff, or any selling techniques, or what we should be telling riders about the importance of fit?
Well, I think as far as a selling technique, I'm wondering if MBDA, as we go through this and we learn, that we could do some meetings, Zoom meetings with some staff, keep it really short and do a 10-minute Woolly Bully, or, sock fitting 101. And the more you start talking about that, the more opportunity you're going to have to make a sale to the customer. And so, it comes down to shoe choice. What shoe are you wearing, and what type of activity are you doing in that shoe? And this is the sock that we'd recommend. The funny thing I learned this year going to, we sponsor Team Factory Racing, Trek Factory Racing. And we went to a lot of the events where we could speak with them, and they love the Evo that we make. I had no clue mountain bikers were wearing the really thin socks. And so, my mountain bike shoes fit a little bit different than my road shoes. So that's something that we learned this year. And that it can filter down to NICA, because NICA kind of look at the girls on, Trick Factory Racing, and they go, oh, look what they're wearing. And so they're concerned about aerodynamics at that level. And I didn't know that because they're doing short races and
There's so much, yeah, we could definitely go down a rabbit hole because I'm starting to think about if a sales staff member just asked a rider when they were in the store, even if they weren't shopping for shoes, they were just in the store looking if you know, you get into a conversation, you know, what's your riding like? Where are you riding? You're just kind of getting to know the customer a little bit. How do your shoes fit? I mean, it's a weird question, but somehow you get there. And then just the thickness of a sock could help address the shoe fit. So there's a lot of spots where we could open up the potential for finding the rider a product that's going to make their ride more enjoyable, which is going to get them on the bike more, which is going to increase our sport and everything at large. All right. So we have 6-inch socks, 3-inch socks, 1-inch sock. What's the data telling us? How do we know what socks we should stock? Like all of them? I mean, help us out here.
well, it comes down to your customer base. You know, a mountain bike group is probably going to lean to more of a calf height, you know, sock. But that's starting to change a little bit. A casual rider might want the 1-inch sock. A pro rider is going to have a 6-inch sock, you know, but those things do ebb and flow. The 3-inch sock is where it all started, you know, and I've seen some trends coming back that way. Let's hope that they don't go over the knee, you know,
Right.
because the UCI created that rule. The over the knee sock or to the knee sock is more aerodynamic. I've seen the results myself, test results, but you know, it does not look good. And so I think sock height is a personal preference, but it's something we have to take serious. And you know, you don't want to have to redo your tan lines. It comes down to that, and it comes down to fashion. My personal favorite is probably the 6-inch sock. I think it's right at the sweet spot for me. 7 inches, it gets into my calf a little bit, and it's not so appealing, I think. What about you? What's your
Yeah.
go-to?
I mean, I think I like the 6-inch when I ride because it's high, you know, high up. But if I'm just going to be casual running or walking around in my, you know, typical riding, you know, fun riding shoes, but with my everyday, you know, whatever, 5'10s, it's something smaller, like a 1-inch or a 3-inch. But, you know, for a retailer or a buyer who's looking to make sure that their wall has good representation, then maybe you would say, you got to show each size possibly, perhaps. Like, I mean, how many SKUs? I'm just thinking about a wall and how much space we dedicate.
You know, our sales team have a good list of what sells the best.
Okay.
And, you know, it's nice if you are setting that up and you have enough space to go with I like to see the 4 sizes across. And, you know, we recommend like 1, 3, 3, 1, or whatever the flow would be, or, you know, it depends on how many you order. But, you know, you can also, if space is tight, you can also put the small and all on one rack, on one hook, and have the extra large at the back. You know, that is an option. But, you know, our sales team can guide you into what's selling, what's the best socks to, you know, to move.
I think that's awesome because as you know, as a buyer, you could get looking at all these colors and be like, oh my God, you know, this is my personal favorite, but I don't know what's resonating. Um, Thinking about how retailers sell socks, position socks, you're working with many retailers. Is there any retailer who's doing something unique that stands out to you that like you see that they're really having success selling socks? Is there anything that you could comment on or mention that you think is a proven technique that works well?
I think that's a blank canvas right now. I think if we can learn from your members and we can find a way to help train, I would love to see what Fleet Feet were able to accomplish, to where, you know, at one point back in the day, in the mid to late 90s, DeFeet was we were like a currency in the cycling industry. Everybody had our sock. If it was, you know, Giro or Bell or CD Look, whoever that they Trek Specialized, everybody had DeFeet socks that they were using, and that became I guess it was like a sock boom. And since then, you know, I think recently it's been a sock boom for the designers that I mentioned earlier, and they do a wonderful job. And so it's become more of an aesthetic hit, right? As a statement.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if I went off your question there, but I would love to see DeFeet learn to help the members of the MBDA, so we can say, hey, here's a really good success story. These companies, Rich Supply and Handlebar Mustache and that whole group, they really did a good job of creating a desire. People want that product. And
Mhm.
so, that if you put those socks in your space, if you can get those socks, if they do IBD selling, or if you use the DeFeet, aesthetic socks, if you will, like we have one called the, what is it called? The ombre, and it's available in a whole bunch of different colors. Those
Yeah.
are showstoppers. That gets people there. But yeah, I'd love to see us discover that this year, Heather.
Yeah, I love that we're just having this really authentic conversation, because as you're expressing your thoughts, I'm thinking over here, I think there's a lot of opportunity for retailers to think out of the box. It's not just choosing socks to sell in your store on the wall, let's say next to your shoes, but with working with DeFeet, we have an option now that we could reach out to our local NICA team, we could reach out to our local cycling club, and we could say, hey, work with our store. We have a relationship with DeFeet. We can make custom socks for you, so the retailer can actually be the one getting that relationship going and making a margin on that sock too, and bringing more people into their store and creating a more connected environment, creating a custom sock, creating a custom sock of the month or the season. I mean, you could get kind of crazy with this if you want to, but keeping people excited, I think is really important. So I'm interested to hear what our listeners come back with to us. We'll share your contact at the end, and how we can, continue to build this. I think there's a lot of great ideas that we're brainstorming on here. Online sales, I know you sell direct, but I also know that some of our retailers sell on their website socks. Any tips for retailers to increase their online sales of socks?
Uh, Again, I hope we can discover some new, I guess, directions on how we do that. Right now, we have a really solid photo shelter platform where they can share all of our photos that we have access to, which would include Lotto Destiny, which is our UCI team, and Trek Factory Racing, and then our lifestyle shots that we get from our ambassadors, and then our product shots that we have in-house studio product shots. And I would love to hear from the retailers to find out how they feel that we can do better in that area.
Yeah, I'm also thinking for retailers who are selling online, if you've got a person who's putting a pair of cycling shoes into the cart to check out, don't be afraid to add like a toggle that says suggested add-on items, and suggest socks. Or even if you don't do that at the time of checkout, when you're processing that order, reach back out to the customer and have these suggested items, because I think there's lots of opportunity there.
And also
Yeah.
to echo on that, Heather, you mentioned it a while ago. We make an incredible arm warmer. We make an incredible knee warmer. Our Dura glove, incredibly dexterity. The dexterity of our Dura glove, you can still function, use your phone. Those are cycling related products that can be add-ons, as suggested at the bottom of the website. Yeah, for sure. And it's all made in our factory too.
Yeah, I love that Duraglove. I'm an ultra runner, and I absolutely love it for cycling. I love it for running. I love it, for driving the kids to school. I love those gloves. And I love that they come in different colors, so you can find something that speaks to you. Yeah, seasonality in our industry, it is something that we face. So having the access to shoe coverings, I used to do the bullies, being the Northeast, I would always put the woolly bullies up in the store. And then arm warmers, knee warmers, and leg warmers was really important. Um, I mean, you talked about technology, you talked about planning 5 years out. So what's what's the trends? What's coming? What can you share anything with us?
I don't mind sharing some of the things. I'll start with just saying that what we had just accomplished, which was we were the first company in the world to be able to bring RWS fully from the ranch to retail, and that is our wool. It comes from Shaniko Farms in Oregon. It gets dyed in South Carolina. It gets spun and I'm sorry, it gets washed in South Carolina. It gets spun in South Carolina, and it gets dyed in North Carolina. So the whole platform, ranch to retail, is all U.S. merino wool. And we just announced that about 6 months ago, I believe, and that was on the platform for at least 5 years. And so I want to show some success, there. Sustainability, we're constantly looking to continue that down that road. We use recycled water bottles for all of our socks. What I'm working on in the future is spider silk. Spider silk is a protein-based fiber that would biodegrade, and we've been working on that for a lot longer than 5 years. But it's not just DeFeet; it's the technology. I'm sorry, the textile technology space. It goes from synthesized to genetically modified to synthesized to harvested naturally. But that is a wonderful project that would be wonderful to be a part of bringing that to because that would eliminate the nylon, and we're looking at ways to even further our nylon sustainability, which hopefully will come out in the next couple of years. So the innovation that we're leaning towards would be protein-based yarns that would biodegrade.
This is tremendous. And for our listeners, if you go on DeFeet.com, there's a sustainability link that you can learn more about the local supply chain, the wool ranch that they're working with out of Oregon, and coming from recycled bottles. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing. And again, I want to emphasize, I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed to say this, but I think I have some DeFeet socks that are like more than 20 years old, and they're still amazing. Like, they have withheld shape. There's no holes in them. So, you're getting a quality product even with the sustainability measures that you're taking. So kudos to you guys. I'm thinking about e-bikes. All right. So we've seen a huge e-bike boom in our industry, and we're reaching new riders because we're reaching a more diverse group of riders. And these riders might not understand, they're not cyclists, they're coming into an industry that they're not comfortable in, and they're exploring it. And we have changing consumer trends in the e-bike world. But I'm thinking, in fashion and socks, we have now some people who are taking lunch rides, so their everyday socks are now also their athletic socks, or maybe their expectations on socks are different now and changing. Is there anything that you're noticed as far as trends of what people are expecting in socks, and anything that as retailers we might want to keep in mind there? Or should we just lean on the manufacturers such as you to help us to make sure?
I like that path you went down, the electric bike path. I have several electric bikes here that we use to commute. Commuting on an e-bike, you don't sweat, and you don't have to take a shower at the office, and it's still somewhat of a workout. But we went to Eurobike, and we saw the fashion coming in from the e-bike clothes, and it makes sense. It's commuter clothes that you don't have to necessarily, it has to have moisture management, but not overly done. It's not overly tight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking at that customer, as you said, they're coming into a bike shop and it's alien space for them. So they might not be as thin as a cyclist. So we have a sock that, and actually the word that you used a while ago, every day, it's like an everyday sock, and it's made with a larger girth for the ankle, not so aggressive. And so we call it the all day. And that all day sock is perfectly targeted to a new person coming into the space. Has some moisture management, which is a healthier environment for the sock. And it can also be customized where you can do one pair custom on it. So somebody could give it as a gift to somebody for $30. They can put whatever they want on it. And it's quite amazing. And that was another technology that we brought to light over the last 12 months, was our direct garment printing.
I love that you have this all day sock, because I remember, working in the shop when I would have a customer, show them athletic socks or cycling socks, they would look at them and they'd be like, what are these? This isn't a sock. This, because some people are just used to that thick cotton sock, so they can't even get their brains around. So I think this all day option is really cool. And yeah, I didn't know you had that, but thanks, thanks for doing that. I think it's really important.
Yeah, we like I said, our new boutique is on a walkway bike path, and we're open from 10 to 4 every day, and people just stop in, and it's amazing to see them go to our outlet and then look at the products, and you can tell some of them are just now starting to get active, and it's a fun journey to watch them start, and then a couple of months later they're actually up their exercise, and they're motivated. Sometimes it can be as simple as a sock. It can be a custom sock that you make that inspires somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. The sky is the limit. And I'm really excited to be working so closely with you and your team and to get more retailers involved and collectively make a big impact, make a big difference. You guys are joining us at the Retailer Summit. You're a sponsor of the summit. I'm thrilled to have you there. I know you're staying at the Bike Inn with us. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff with us. You'll be there to interact with retailers. I saw on your website a whole list of places that DeFeet will be at to interact with retailers. Really excited to have you there. I can't thank you enough for your support of that event.
We are so happy. This is so fortunate. As I mentioned, our worst year was last year, and I believe that we came together here because of a piece of music that I had written years ago. And somebody reached out to me and asked if they could use the music in an event you guys were doing.
Yep.
I didn't understand that we could be a part of the MBDA. And so we just discovered our trade show. Our trade show is gone, and here we are in North Carolina. This is going to be awesome. We're looking forward to meeting the members and learning all we can to help them continue, with their success. Because when they find success, of course, we find it as well. So.
Yeah, it is really serendipitous, right? We were planning our holiday event and Jody just reached out to you for some music, as you said, and then next thing you know, it's nice to get to know you and the team more. I know you're part of our retailer supplier best practices panel. You are actively taking a role into creating positive change, better working ways. Let's figuring all this stuff out together. So Shane, if people listening wanted to contact you to learn more about the brand, learn more about, get that piece of music, whatever it might be, would you share contact or the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, they can call our 800 number, the old fashioned way, which is 800-688-3067, or they can reach out through email at support@defeat.com. If anybody wants to follow me personally on my social media, I am Coop DeFeet on all the social media platforms. And I say that because sometimes I'm not allowed to run the DeFeet social media platform very often. And so my personal one is a journey. It's like my wife and I go to Spain this coming Sunday to the Lotto training camp, which we'll be sharing some cool things from, because we do listen to the riders. And so at the same hotel, Team Factory Trek Racing are going to be there. So it's going to be an awesome week that we have to cram. Such a hard job.
What an amazing things to find someone to share your life with, though, that enjoys the same things you do, right?
Well, that would be nice if she didn't drop me on the hills, but she does drop me on the hills, and I've learned to just get dropped and enjoy.
Well, so listeners, that's Coop DeFeet on the socials. We'll share that because that's pretty cool. Shane, thank you for being you, for what you've given to the industry for so many years, for what you continue to. I love how your responses are, we're still learning, we're still working. That's what I'm looking forward to this year, because I think continuous improvement is the best thing we can always do for ourselves and for the people who are around us. So really looking forward to that. The Retailer Summit's going to rock. I'm so excited to have you guys there. And thank you for your time today.
Well, Heather, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for allowing vendors like DeFeet to be a part of this. I think we'll learn a lot more, and we will grow this space. It's nowhere but up now, and I'm blessed that this happened. It was serendipitous, as you said, And I just look forward to all the positive things that are come out. And again, thanks again, Heather.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you for listening to Bicycle Retail Radio. This podcast is designed specifically for the bicycle industry, dedicated to strengthening our retailers and cycling community. If it is your first episode, we urge you to take the time and listen to our past episodes.